General Évariste Ndayishimiye, born 1968, is a Burundian politician, who has served as President of Burundi since June 18, 2020. He became involved in the rebel National Council for the Defense of Democracy, Forces for the Defense of Democracy, Conseil National pour la Défense de la Démocratie, Forces pour la Défense de la Démocratie, CNDD, FDD, during the Burundian Civil War and rose up the ranks of its militia. At the end of the conflict, he entered the Burundian Army and held a number of political offices under the auspices of President Pierre Nkurunziza. Nkurunziza endorsed Ndayishimiye as his successor ahead of the 2020 elections, which he won with a large majority. Ndayishimiye now takes the helm of Burundi leadership as the country seeks to shake off the undoing of years-long ethnic-based civil war and economic ruin. He joined the Hutu militia after he survived the ethnic cleansing of students at the University of Burundi in 1995, 2 years after the intractable conflict between the Tutsi minority and the Hutu majority began. His militia belonged to the rebel group CNDD, FDD, which morphed into the ruling party. Rising through the group's ranks, including as the spokesman for the rebel group's high command, he was appointed the main negotiator in the truce talks that ended the conflict in 2006, after claiming over 300,000 lives. Until his election to the presidency, the retired Army General has been the Secretary General of CNDD-FDD party since 2016. He also doubled as the Military Affairs Department in Pierre Nkurunziza's government, having also served as the Minister of Interior and Public Security from 2006 to 2007. Popularly known by his nickname Neva, Ndayishimiye was handpicked to fly the party's presidential flag after Nkurunziza's bid for a third term in 2015 sparked protests by opposition supporters who termed it unconstitutional. According to an Al Jazeera report quoting Burundi Human Rights Initiative, Nkurunziza had wanted the President of the National Assembly Pascal Nyabenda to succeed him. However, Ndayishimiye was settled on to appease both Nkurunziza and powerful generals, who some believe actually control the government. Évariste Ndayishimiye was born in 1968 at Musema, Kabanga Zone in Giheta, Gitega province in Burundi. He is reported to be a fervent Catholic. He began studies in law at the University of Burundi, UB, but was still studying in 1995 when Hutu students were massacred as part of the inter-ethnic violence which accompanied the Burundian Civil War, 1993 to 2005. He fled and joined the moderate rebel National Council for the Defense of Democracy, Forces for the Defense of Democracy, Conseil National pour la Défense de la Démocratie, Forces pour la Défense de la Démocratie, CNDD, FDD, which drew its support predominantly from ethnic Hutu. Rising up the ranks of the group during the Civil War, he presided over its militia and military activities. He gained the nickname Neva. A series of agreements in 2003 paved the way for the CNDD, FDD to enter national politics as a political party. Ndayishimiye became Deputy Chief of Staff of the Burundian Army. In 2005, the CNDD, FDD came to power under the leadership of Pierre Nkurunziza, whose background was similar and who had also fled UB in 1995. Ndayishimiye served as Minister of the Interior and Public Security from 2006 to 2007 before becoming the personal military aide, chef de cabinet militaire, to Nkurunziza. He held this post until 2014. Alongside his office, he studied at Wisdom University of Africa and gained a degree in 2014. He also chaired the Burundi National Olympic Committee for much of this period. After rising opposition, Nkurunziza announced in 2018 that he would not stand for a fourth term as president in 2020. Ndayishimiye was the candidate he endorsed as his replacement in the CNDD, FDD, and was considered to be a close ally. It had been reported that Nkurunziza wanted to run the country from behind the scenes, using Ndayishimiye as a puppet ruler after his resignation. However, it was also noted that Ndayishimiye may have been chosen as a compromise between Nkurunziza and other CNDD, FDD generals determined to ensure that a civil war veteran retained control. Ndayishimiye was not associated with the worst abuses under Nkurunziza and was reported to be the most open and honest candidate within the CNDD, FDD. Ndayishimiye won elections held in May 2020, winning 68% of the national vote. However, the fairness of the poll was widely questioned and it occurred in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic in Burundi. Nkurunziza died unexpectedly on June 8, 2020. Since Ndayishimiye had already won the elections, the Constitutional Court accelerated his inauguration as president. He was installed at a ceremony in Giheta on June 18, 2020, 2 months ahead of schedule. Ndayishimiye began his 7-year term on June 18, 2020 and announced his first cabinet on June 28, 2020. He shrunk the cabinet ministers from 21 to 15 and mainly nominated ex-regime hardliners to take up key positions. Ndayishimiye's tenure has been noted to have been less isolationist than his predecessor Nkurunziza's, with Ndayishimiye having made 4 state visits, including a 5-day trip to Equatorial Guinea, and also accommodated a state visit by the President of Ethiopia during his first 10 months in office. Initially, Ndayishimiye was more active than his predecessor in pursuing a stronger response to the COVID-19 pandemic. He called the virus the nation's worst enemy shortly after taking office. In January 2021, he closed national borders, having previously issued a statement which said that anyone bringing COVID-19 into Burundi would be treated as people bringing weapons to kill Burundians. Burundi nonetheless joined Tanzania in February 2021 in being the only African nations to reject vaccines from the COVAX scheme. Health Minister Thadi Ndikumana stated that since more than 95% of patients are recovering, we estimate that the vaccines are not yet necessary. Through most of 2021, Burundi apparently made no efforts to procure vaccines, one of only 3 countries to fail to take this step. However, in October 2021, the Burundian government announced that it had received delivery of 500,000 doses of the Chinese Sinopharm BIBP vaccine. In December 2022, he attended the United States, Africa Leaders Summit 2022 in Washington, D.C. hosted by U.S. President Joe Biden. In July 2023, he attended the 2023 Russia, Africa Summit in St. Petersburg and met with Russian President Vladimir Putin. In December 2023, responding to a reporter's question on Western countries pushing for LGBT rights to be respected, Ndayishimiye stated the homosexuals should be stoned en masse, and that to do so would not be a crime. General Évariste Ndayishimiye, the current president of Burundi, was born on June 17, 1968, in Giheta, Burundi. After serving in the Burundi Army for decades, in 1991, he began studies in law at the Université du Burundi in Bujumbura. However, during his second year in 1993, his legal education was interrupted by the civil war and ethnic divisions between the Hutu, Bantu, vast majority, and the Tutsi, traditional aristocratic minority, ethnic groups, which cost at least 300,000 lives in Burundi during its 13 years of civil war. In 2003, Ndayishimiye married Angélique Ndayubaha Ndayishimiye, an economist and the president of the Good Action Foundation Umugiraneza. She was born in the Kiganda area of Muramvya district, Burundi. They are the parents of 6 children. From 2006 to 2007, Ndayishimiye was the Interior and Public Security Minister for Burundi, and from 2007 to 2014, he served as the personal military aide to President Pierre Nkurunziza. In 2014 he received a Bachelor of Laws from Université Sagesse d'Afrique in Bujumbura in 2014 and chaired the Burundi National Olympic Committee. 2 years later, in 2016, General Ndayishimiye became the Secretary General of the National Council for the Defense of Democracy, Forces for the Defense of Democracy, a new Burundi political party. In 2018, Ndayishimiye was endorsed by President Nkurunziza as his replacement for president after the incumbent decided not to run for a 4th term. On June 18, 2020, Ndayishimiye was hastily sworn in as the 9th President of Burundi in the capital city of Gitega after winning 68% of the national vote in an election marred by violence and the untimely death of Nkurunziza 10 days earlier. Opposition leaders claimed the election was rigged, but Ndayishimiye vowed to preserve and promote the country's independence, love, and equitably achieved development. He immediately had 4 journalists and 2 human rights defenders released from prison and announced the pardon or early release of more than 5,000 prisoners. In 2021, Ndayishimiye addressed the UN General Assembly's 76th session declaring that refugees who had fled the nation because of ethnic violence were welcome to return. He also announced a strategic action plan designed to protect human rights in Burundi and discussed the restoration of peace, security, stability, and social cohesion in this civil war-torn nation. In a country where the COVID-19 pandemic remains a threat to thousands of Burundi citizens, Ndayishimiye rejected vaccines from outside the nation and closed its borders to foreigners he claimed for safety. To protect himself against COVID, General Évariste Ndayishimiye did receive sizable doses of the Chinese Sinopharm BIBP vaccine. Thank you for watching this video.